Today's best music.
Magic 89.9.
And for the podcast, I actually really enjoy sharing experiences on the podcast because, for one, it challenges Bones and I, Megan and I, to think about stories. And when we tell them, we surprise ourselves that, oh my God, I completely forgot about that story and that experience.
Yeah, every week that we do the podcast, there's always something new that we learn about each other, even though we've been together for almost 10 years. I mean, there's still some things that we discover about each other when we do the podcast. And I like it because it's kind of a way for us to, tackle some things that maybe we haven't discussed before. Maybe these are things na, okay, hindi pala natin napag-usapan. Why don't we talk about it now on the podcast? Which we don't mind because in a way, the podcast is kind of like us talking to our friends. The viewers of the podcast have become some sort of family in a way. So we try to treat it very friend-like. Parang ganito, kwentuhan lang.
Yeah, just to add to that, what's this called? The reason also why we came up with that setup, like the podcast, we pick an issue and we literally just tell stories that we have about that issue rather than say, do this, do that. So we just allow the audience to pick whatever they want out of those stories that they hear from us. Because for me, my mode of learning ever since I was young was to watch other people and watch their experiences and pick out and try out some of those things that I see. And if it works for me, I keep it. But at least we don't come off as someone saying, hey, we're experts in this, because we aren't.
You're not preachy, in other words.
Yeah. We're just taking you guys behind the scenes and sharing these experiences. Because when people can relate to experiences, it kind of makes your own experiences easier to deal with. So let's say there's a shameful experience of jealousy and you felt it. To know that someone else felt that way, at least for me, makes it easier for me to deal with. I was like, oh, I'm not alone. So I think that's one of the points we wanted to share when we did the podcast and when we tell our stories on it.
All right. So no regrets. There are no negative sides to it so far.
I think there are, and I think there will be more. But there are two sides to a coin.
Always,
and I think that negativity will always be there because not everybody will agree with your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody will agree with the story. But nonetheless, it is a story that has happened to us, and us sharing it doesn't change what happened anymore. But I think it's part of the discussion and it's part of the value that the podcast and our stories bring to the conversation. That, hey, there's a dark side and there's a light side. Neither is wrong or correct. It's just what will work for you when you take it away for yourself.
Right. Joyce and Juancho, did it serve as a coping mechanism also? The decision to put yourself out there, especially you, Joyce, with your projects, your podcasts and all that. Is it therapeutic to a certain degree for you as a couple or for you individually to put your life out there to a certain extent?
Actually, what I noticed with Juancho and I, we were very public in the beginning of the relationship.
Okay.
And then the deeper we got into the relationship, the more private we became. Like, people were also surprised that we got married. We didn't have any announcement. We announced our engagement after a couple of months that we were already engaged. And I feel like that was it really was a subconscious thing for us, because when we were dating in the beginning, like when we were hosting the morning show together, we weren't dating yet. And then it became like a TV thing. And then eventually became a real thing in our lives. And we just felt like there were a lot of things that we didn't want to bring to the public that we were doing. And so we kind of went backwards with that. We were very public in the beginning. And now nga in the vlog, sobrang minsan lang din kami mag-update with our YouTube channel of our lives. Like, and it's usually
Why is that?
things.
Why is that, Joyce? Why did it, kumbaga, bakit hindi na kasing dalas? I want to see the reason. Is it just purely schedules? You're busy? Or did you discover that, the more that you get into your marriage, to the thick of it, the more that you wanted to protect it?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. You're right. The deeper we got into our marriage and our relationship, the more sensitive we were with outside forces, and so we wanted to protect it. Everything that we are going through, even before we got married. So we went into premarital counseling. We went through a lot of things that we never talked about in public until after our wedding, because we really both wanted to protect it, and it felt like we were getting to know each other at such a fast pace, and so we didn't want the other outside forces to
compromise it.
Yeah, to compromise.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to therapeutic to an extent. But now that I'm thinking about it, I would like to focus on why we are, me and Joyce, Joyce and I, why we are uploading these podcasts, these vlogs, and our goal naman deep inside, and we've talked about this, is our story can help other people, just like what Mikael said. And if our testimonies, in our own little way, diba, parang reduces the interesting days that other couples may fight about, or just the simple things like you can actually cut your husband's hair just by watching on YouTube. That's why we are actually it's okay for us to be sharing these kinds of details and the intimate parts of our lives, like what we talk about also in the vlogs. And I think there's also a fine line naman to what we can upload and what we are
willing to share.
Allowed. Yeah, willing to share. So there are a lot of things naman that we talk about before, going on a podcast or taping for a vlog and going on interview. So I think that works out well for the both of us.